that gives the lender the ability to underwrite the deal fast. And when I talk about underwriting the deal fast, is like Ryan and I can underwrite the deal in about 10 minutes on the phone. Like, of course, we have to back that up with due diligence. But if the information that is being given to us is accurate, we can run those numbers and let you know, hey, this is probably where we can be. And we can underwrite a deal in like 10 minutes. So it doesn't take, hey, let me get back to you in a week. Let me get back to you in 72 hours. I'm not saying like, an actual like coaching guru type program, but it's kind of like what Ryan and I are doing right now, and kind of what the podcast in general is about, is like adding value and sharing from our perspective exactly what this episode is about, right? Like, hey, these are things that can help you. But another interesting perspective is a really good lender, and I really, really hope it's somebody local. I would highly, highly advise that, because that is a massive competitive advantage for you, not only for protecting your downside, but also from a perspective of like having that knowledge and that brain trust that you have as far as partnerships that we talk about, because your lender, especially your local lender, has the unique perspective of seeing just so many deals, right? It's not like they're anything special. I'm not saying we're anything special here, but we see deals from all different areas in our local market, from all different perspectives, right? Your flippers, your holders, your commercial guys, your multifamily guys, your land guys, your new construction guys. So we're seeing all these deals all over the place. What's happening on this street, this market, this city. So it's just purely because of the number of reps that we're getting to see. So when you're bringing us a deal, we might be like, hey, we just funded one on this street. This is what we can tell you about this street. Or, hey, we just funded in this area. Or, hey, you might want to look out because we've heard that this is happening over here. Like, that's invaluable information. So that's what a great lender can do for you. And those are the things that can really, like we said, the devil's in the details there too, right? So they can add value, is just from a knowledge share standpoint.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And, I think what a lot of our investors here in the DFW area are experiencing is that location always is so key in real estate, but it's becoming even more important here, because we've had some folks that have had great success still because they were in the right location. But then some of the markets here have been slow on the exit, right, on your days on market side of things. And so that goes back to managing your expectations and really knowing what you're getting yourself into. Are you going to be able to get out of your fix and flip loan in time, right? That's important for you to protect your profit. So absolutely, right? We want to help come in and provide that perspective so that we can give you a realistic timeline of, hey, it's probably going to take you at least this many days to exit in this neighborhood. That's what we're seeing right now. And that extra perspective can really help in terms of, how long you should expect to be in that loan with us.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I love that. What else, man? What else can a great lender do for you? I mean, one thing I'm thinking about is, okay, this might be a little controversial, but let's get controversial, I guess. With a draw, you just need the best draw system out there, right? You need an awesome draw process. And here's where it's going to be controversial: is a draw system is better than a lower rate, right? You can get tripped up over like running to the bottom and getting the absolute cheapest, lowest rate. And that's okay, right? Sometimes that's appropriate, but like it might be like a big box company that's out of state. They don't know the market. They're just lending, whatever. The draw process is super, super slow. They have to send out an inspector. The inspector gets sick. There's a delay. Your project is getting delayed. And maybe you've saved a point, which is like, let's just call it $1,200 or $2,000. But now your project is just like this massive headache and it's taking longer and longer. It just doesn't compare. Okay. So that's one thing that I would want to say is like a great lender is going to care very deeply and be all over the draw process for their borrowers, because if they understand investing, they know that that is like the lifeblood of the project. They know that your guys need to get paid on Fridays, right? They're all expecting their paychecks on Fridays or whenever it is, right? And holding that project up from you, or withholding your funds from you and being like stingy about it, is not the way to go about it. And we have to work through those. And also, I would say a great lender is like working through the scope of work if it needs to be worked on, right? And I think that some companies, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying when the scope of work comes in, it's like, hey, this is set in stone. But like sometimes it does need to be reworked. And that happens with a conversation. And I think that's about expectations too.
Yep. No, I totally agree. And what goes into all of these pieces, right? Providing perspective on days on market for where you're trying to secure that property and that loan for, helping work through the scope of work and, make sure that the budget is going to be having that buffer that you're going to need, making sure that your draws are super painless and really convenient and lightning fast. All of that stuff is how we build trust together in that relationship. And so, Joel, you said earlier, hey, it might be a best practice to look for someone that's local who can provide that hands-on experience. Obviously, we're local, but there's other local lenders, in this area as well. And I would say another aspect of that is get someone where you can build a relationship with that person, right? Where you can work with that person on more than just that one loan.
Yeah.
Bigger companies are cycling in and out of loan officers, and then you have to rebuild that trust and rebuild that relationship. So I would say that's a really key component, is look for a lender where you can build a relationship with the person that's actually underwriting your loans. And man, that trust and that relationship is just going to go such a long way.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the relationship is huge, right? And I think that comes back to it being local, right? You can go meet, greet, belly to belly, shake hands, go to lunch, grab coffee, walk the property, see what's going on, celebrate the wins as the property transitions and transforms. Yeah. So it's not, I don't know. I would say for a great lender, capital isn't enough. It's about, the confidence, the clarity, the speed.
100%.
Okay, so let's kind of like bring it all together. We talked about the conversation in the beginning, right? We talked about the common mistakes, and then we talked about like what a good lender can do for you. So if I could like kind of tie this all together, I would say like, right, bring the deal, have a realistic ARV, right? Ryan, you said manage expectations. That's what we're talking about. Have a realistic budget. Have a well thought out multiple exit strategy that gives the lender the ability to underwrite the deal fast. And when I talk about underwriting the deal fast, is like Ryan and I can underwrite the deal in about 10 minutes on the phone. Like, of course, we have to back that up with due diligence. But if the information that is being given to us is accurate, we can run those numbers and let you know, hey, this is probably where we can be. And we can underwrite a deal in like 10 minutes. So it doesn't take, hey, let me get back to you in a week. Let me get back to you in 72 hours. Can you submit a ticket? It's like we can do this in real time on the phone. Okay. Or whatever private money guy you're using. Not trying to make this just about fixed lending, but and then you can, and that ability, so you got the proper information. That means the lender can move quickly. That means you can close on time every time. And then you're moving into the project. You're having good, fast, quick draws because the scope of work and budget have been done accurately. And then that's how you really do the fund, flip, repeat model, right? And then you can get that consistency and you have that well-oiled machine. So easy as that, right?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right, Joel?
Bam, I need my bell. Okay, so here, let's talk about five, and then we'll wrap up after this, but we'll talk about 5 questions. This might be helpful too, like 5 questions you should ask your lender and like what to expect from it. So like question number 1, how fast can you really close? And then I would think about, and I would listen to what they say versus what they actually do, right? If they say, hey, I can close in 3 business days, but it takes 3 weeks, like obviously you're paying attention to that, but like how fast can they really close? That's important because time kills all deals, right? So it's really, really important that you don't lose a deal because the lender can't get it done or whatever the case may be. So time does kill all deals. So you want to make sure that the lender can close quickly. Question number 2, how do you handle draws? That's a good one. So what kind of tips do you have on handling draws, right?
I mean, obviously, there's a couple of pieces there, right? You want to understand when you submit your stuff to your lender for your draw, what are they looking for? In our case, we want to make sure that whatever you're submitting lines up with that item in your scope. And then that goes back to having a really good scope of work where it's really detailed and your lender knows ahead of time, hey, my plan is to, work this part and then request this much. So the more communication, I think there, the better. And then making sure that you understand, hey, does your lender require someone to physically go out and inspect the property? Or is it like us where, hey, we've got a relationship now and you can just submit a video and bam, we can get it to you super fast.
Yeah, I love that. Because again, speed matters on the draws. A big, big, big component of that. And I would say a red flag just to look out for too. I don't know, like if anybody or you have or have not experienced that to anybody listening, but like you don't want a lender who's going to control your money with the draw, but using it to empower you instead. Willing to work with you, willing to be gracious where there's ability to be gracious or generous with it, but also not like, being smart about it, I should say. But you don't want somebody who's going to like hold or lord a draw over you and try and control you with it. That's a red flag. So be careful for that. Okay. That's one thing I would say. And then one thing I would say to what you would want to ask is what are all the fees, right? So you really want to get down to it. Ask about all the fees. What's your interest rate? What are your loan origination fees? What are the junk fees? We'll just call it junk fees, right? What are the extension fees? The junk fees are important, right? It covers the cost of like admin and legal and stuff like that. But here's one thing I would say about fees though, and things to look out for is a lower rate doesn't always mean it's a cheaper loan. So when I say junk fees is you really want to be careful and see what all those extra fees actually are. And what I'm talking about that is like all those little things add up. Like, is it $300 per draw? Is it a prepayment penalty if you get the project done quickly and it's a 1.5 point prepayment penalty? Is it, how many fees are there? Is there, when we're talking about junk fees, like how much does that actually add up to? And kind of understand where that actually stacks up. So you want to have clear knowledge of what that actually is, and then how that loan is actually going to perform with that lender. And then you can make a really well decision on it. So those fees can get thrown in there, and before you know it, it's like, I thought I was getting a lower rate, but you're actually paying more. So that's what I would be cautious with.
I would also add in, Joel, try to think about it holistically, not just the numbers, right? So take a step back from just the numbers. You need to understand the numbers, like Joel was saying. But the other thing to consider too is the time value of money and how long you're going to be in the deal. Going back to what we said earlier, if you're not working with a local lender that doesn't understand your local market and they didn't help you set that expectation of how long it's going to take to sell that house, being in that loan for an extra couple of months versus working with a local lender who steers you away from that so you can get in and out of a loan faster, that's much more valuable than 1% on your interest rate, right? So that can be a huge factor. Think about it holistically in terms of, again, the overall value that the lender can.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. And on the flip side, even them being willing to roll with you because they're like, hey, we understand you're doing a great job. I just drove the property with you. We just had lunch. Like, you need a little extra time. That's no problem. We're just going to continue to roll with you versus like, nope, we're done. It's 6 months. We're taking you out. And then you're paying, all these refinance fees and you're having to reposition yourself with another private lender or hard money lender. And that's going to be more costly. So yeah, really, really good. Okay. 2 more questions. Okay. This one I like. We'll offer a little teaser with this, I guess, but do you offer any guarantees or stand behind your service? So the teaser I'll throw out there is we are working on some actual guarantees that are going to, relate to on-time closings and draws. So super excited about that. We're going to be rolling that out here soon. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the podcast here very soon as well. But like, the reason we're thinking about rolling these guarantees out is because we absolutely do stand behind what we say we're going to do. And regardless if it's us or somebody else, right? You want to make sure that that's something they offer and that's something they can actually stand behind. So if they say, hey, we're quick on the draws or we can close on time, you want to make sure that that's actually true and that there's some accountability there, right? Because if you are looking at it a partnership, it's like they need to hold up their end just as much as you need to hold up their end. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. I don't know if you have anything else to share about that, right?
I just think it's reasonable to have some expectations of your lender to be able to follow through on their word, like you were saying, Joel, because obviously for underwriting a good deal as the lender, we're in a good spot, right? We have the loan secured by the property. Typically, you have some skin in the game with us as well as your partner in that deal. And so, hey, what is your lender going to provide you in the way of putting their money where their mouth is to help you really smoothly execute on that? And I think that that's completely reasonable for you to have that expectation. And then for us to come in and say, this is what we can say we will do. And if we, for some reason, we're all human, fail to deliver, there's a consequence that is beneficial for you.
Yep. I love it. And I think that helps like with some of the misconception of like, the lender doesn't care. He just gives me the loan and, he's going to take the property from me right away if I default or whatever. And, all these things about the lender. It's like a great lender, because that's what we're talking about is great lenders. Is great lenders. It does care. It has your back and, should stand behind their service. So yeah, I love it. Okay. Last question I would say, and we've kind of hit on some of this stuff already, but like I ask the question of like, what makes you different from other lenders, and just see what they have to say. And like, Ryan, what would you say to something like that? Like, what makes us different from other lenders, or what makes you different from somebody else in DFW?
I think the biggest part is the relationship, right? I've met a lot of other private and hard money lenders at this point, and a lot of them don't go out to the property with the investor. And maybe that's not everyone's cup of tea. Maybe someone doesn't want that level of more personal relationship and personal touch. But that is something that absolutely differentiates us. DFW is a huge area. Some of these properties require me to drive, an hour and a half one way to Dallas. So maybe it's 3 hours because I live a little bit out in the boonies outside of Fort Worth. But I'm going to do that because it really matters to me that, one, we're shaking hands together, we get to spend some time together. And that's where that trust initially starts, right? Is right at the outset, really setting the tone for, we're going to be in these deals together. We're going to be in this relationship together, and we're also going to win together. So that would probably be the main thing that's different, is I'm going to walk the property with you, and I'm going to build an intentional relationship with you.
Yeah. I love that. I think that sums it up perfectly, right? Because it's like, are they accessible? Do they give input on deals? And do they care if you win? Right? Huge. And accessibility is huge too, right? You want to be able to pick up the phone and call and have it answered. Like, I know that sounds simple too on the other end. Like, what a lender should do is like, you should answer the phone when your investor calls, or go meet them and, be accessible. I think that's a really big deal, and have mutual interest in mind. So aligned values, aligned goals. But yeah. Awesome, man. Any final thoughts before we hop? I thought covered a lot of ground here.
No, I think I'll just end with, I'm excited because, speaking of Dallas, I'll be there tonight, going to dinner to celebrate with our most recent Texas loan that we closed on Monday. So that's another thing, right? Is nice. We just got into this loan, and they're first time investors with us. So we're going to break bread together, and we're just going to celebrate the start of a fruitful relationship, and just spend that quality time getting to know each other a little bit more away from the property now, right? So that's a different setting.
I love that, man. Breaking bread together. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you find value in any of these episodes whatsoever, please like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever they do nowadays. And yeah, share it to somebody else, because you never know, that might actually help them as well. So be a go-giver. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.